This episode is sponsored by Zenro Clothing Co. Pick up your tees and or accessories at zenroclothingco.com and be sure to use offer code Socrates at checkout for 20% off select items. Also, if you're not into spending the money, just check out the Zenrail radio playlist. zenrailclothingco.com, music for your everyday. This episode also sponsored by The Pointy Bakery. If you're located in the Pointy area of Scarborough, Toronto, be sure to check out The Pointy Bakery, say what's up to Arville, and pick up a donut or two. Baked daily, crafted with love. This episode also sponsored by Podbean. Podbean is the podcasting platform of choice. It's the one that me and Vish use, and is great, you know, if you're looking to start that DIY podcast yourself. Definitely check out Podbean. Use the link podbean.com/SocraticGamers and gain 1 month of unlimited podcasting for free. Test it out, build that content. Anyone could podcast, right, Vish?
Yep.
Start a podcast and get your ideas out there. All right, enjoy the episode. Okay, so it's so funny because we were actually just saying, I was like, oh, we don't need to be political experts on it, but that is at the top of my list. The Afghanistan thing. I mean, that is pretty big news that came out
this week.
Yeah. I wonder, like, it's more like this one kind of hits home because we were pretty formative when the 9/11 thing happened, and that's kind of where this whole thing began. And then they just never let. It was like 20 years, they said.
Yeah.
But after we watched the post, remember, it was about Vietnam, and they said like it was through like decades. I think it was like 30 years. So like, why did they say that?
I don't know why. Maybe war? I'm not sure. Yeah. They're saying this was the longest war. Maybe in recent time. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe they're using that term. Recent. I'm not sure.
Apparently, though, ever since the Vietnam War, they hadn't been outside of war. Like, they just had been constantly in war because it fuels the military, like, industrial complex that's going on there. Yeah. Because they make like a lot of money off of war stuff, like bombs and like guns and stuff. Mm-hmm. But I wonder, like, I think the biggest, I mean, it's really sad what's going on, what happened with it was like a young kid who was holding on to one of them who was holding on to the takeoff gear.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
They posted like his picture and he was like a young soccer star. Yeah. I was like, oh, dang, that's crazy. Like, I couldn't even imagine being in that position where you're like, oh, my government's being taken over so easily too, you know? And I mean, they did train the soldiers there, but at the same time, it's like they didn't put up a fight. So, So what does that mean? You know, it's like they don't want to fight their own war. Maybe they don't agree with the American stuff. Like why wouldn't they fight back? I just don't understand that aspect.
I don't know. Why not fight back? Just didn't want to risk it. There was a lot of different stuff that was happening too, where I read about like they had ghost soldiers.
Okay.
And where it was just like they were on the payroll, but someone was just getting the money, but those people didn't even exist.
Which makes sense. Like, of course you would do something like that.
Yeah.
You know, like if it's sort of like COVID now, right? It's like, oh, you can get CERB if you lost your job, so people are just going to sign up anyways, you know? Yeah.
But but they were putting people's names in there who were not even there.
No, that's what I mean. Like, you're going to game the system. Remember the person who, like, they're making lots of money during CERB time, and then they like,
I mean, it is in a sense, you know, a failure, like Vietnam War was in that sense. $2 trillion.
Yeah.
So I see that's a lot of money.
I follow like a lot of army people because they're in like jiu-jitsu, and like they're just talking about like how it's sad because they put so much on the line, and to watch it just
but again they also days. Just, you know,
doing the job
can't just stay forever. There's another thing where it was like they were anticipating that eventually Taliban would take over, just not this quick. They didn't expect the Afghan forces to not do anything. That's why it was this quick.
They were like, oh, well, we trained you. You should. You most likely would somehow like fight back.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
But then it's like a lot of the weapons then goes to the Taliban, right? It's like everything you...
Do you see the thing where like they're doing updates via Twitter? I was watching that, like they have their own Twitter account and they're like posting stuff. Yeah, I know, it's a weird time. Well, one thing that's really interesting to think about is like power vacuums. Like, of course, the Taliban would take over because like when you leave, like a powerful military force leaves, then you have a power vacuum of like who's going to take over.
Yeah.
So like the next powerful thing would obviously take over.
Right.
You know, and you're saying...
I know, but I think like even the Afghan army itself, it's technically more people than the Taliban, but I think that the Taliban has they're
willing to like really fight.
Yeah.
You know,
that's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like even if you look at it as well, like America just has the bigger stick. So it's like, okay, there might be more people, but we have the bigger stick. So we're going to win, you know? Because you look at China, right? There's like 4 billion people or something like that.
Yeah.
And then America doesn't have that many, but they have the bigger stick.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, the main reason they were there was to get Osama bin Laden, which ended up happening many, many years later.
but then they said like we weren't here to nation build, but it's like...
Well, that's what Biden is saying, to save kind of face, but he wasn't there when they went there first, right?
Right.
So it's like, I think he knew, because he did multiple trips, I think, when Obama was in office, right? Because he was VP, and I think he knew that it's not a place they're going to win, maybe.
Oh, really, eh?
I think so. It's just like, it's not his decision. It's up to Obama at the time.
Like they were talking about Joe Rogan, and like the landscape is extremely like mountainous. And because of that, it's really hard to hold it down. So, yeah, I don't know. It almost seemed like a losing battle.
Yeah. But the thing you have to understand too, it's like now, it's 20 years, right? People that were born is like 20 years old. They've lived with Americans there.
True.
So they don't...
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, so it's like...
Oh, that's so true.
So there's a lot of people, they're young people that like, they don't know what it's going to be like.
And that's why they're ready to leave. Like, we heard so much badness about like the Taliban and now...
Yeah, I mean, there were technically more freedoms in the sense, right? Like girls were able to go to school and stuff like that. So like...
You were saying they shut that down.
Yeah, the CNN, there was a CNN reporter, I think I just read today that she's officially like out of Kabul, but she was on the ground and interviewing or talking with Taliban forces, right?
Okay.
And they were saying, like, there's the new image of Taliban. Oh yeah, we come in peace. Girls can still go to school and learn, but like. If you break it down, it's more like, well, he said like girls can still go to school, but they'd have to follow the Islamic.
Oh, wow.
Like the clothing they wear has to follow the Islamic. So then she was like she had, what do you call it? Like a hijab type of thing. Okay. So her face was shown, and she asked him like, oh, like this? And he's like, no, like with the face covering as well.
So she's like the niqab as well.
Yeah. Wow. And then the other aspect to that is also, if you're following the Islamic thing, is like if once girls hit like puberty, they can't go to the same schools they can't go to the same boy and girl schools.
Yeah.
So that they would have to go to a girl only school, but they don't have a girl only school. Yeah. So technically they wouldn't be going to school.
Rough. It's weird when you think like this is literally going on right now in a different part of the world. So we talked about North Korea. I don't know, this last podcast or 2 podcasts ago, and it's like places like Afghanistan, North Korea, it's like these are real places that are happening right now, but we're living in like these cush lights. It's really like Elysium, you know, remember that movie?
Yeah, it is, where
they're trying to get to the space station or whatever, and it's like that platform has all the good stuff, and then the people on the lower level are trying to get there, and it's like, it's like we don't see that level of, I don't know, poverty and destruction in our day-to-day. We see so much like civility, so it's like weird to think about. Actually, even I read Hickson Gracie's book, and he was saying how when he came to America, he was driving like a Brazilian. So like in Brazil, like traffic stuff is more like guidelines. They're not really like laws. Yeah. So he was saying how he was driving around in the the lane where only police can go, like the sidebar. He's like, oh, if I hit traffic, I would just drive on the side or like cut people off, run reds. It's like, yeah, they're more like suggestions, and then he realized like, no, it's totally different in America. Like, you're really going to get in trouble here.
Yeah.
But like, even through that perspective, it's like, what do laws even mean? We have these collective agreements called laws that we're all going to follow in order to build like a civil society. But, at the end of the day, it's like really nothing.
No, it is a collective agreement, right?
Yeah. It's weird.
Yeah, that's how all laws work. Well, yeah.
No, but like we grew up in a time of civility. So like in a time and place filled with civility. So it's like, no, you're going to go to jail for that. It's like, in a different place, you know.
I mean, I've seen the two things, right? Especially if you go to India, you'll see that.
Yeah, totally.
Especially with traffic, but it's like, that's
when you travel, yeah, for sure, yeah.
Then you see the chaos of it all over there.
Yeah, totally, yeah, for sure. It's so funny. I was with your brother at the waterfront. We saw this like drumming thing, and I was like, it reminded me of like that there are culture. Like we've just been in. Okay, so we haven't traveled because of COVID, and like you're really in this bubble, right? Especially even more so because like you also don't really leave your house, so you're like in a super bubble. So when I saw that, I was like, oh wow, there are other cultures around the world, and I totally forgot. It made me really want to go see those cultures again, because you're like I don't see this on a day-to-day basis, like people like drumming and like they weren't chanting, but that cultural aspect, But then what was funny too is your brother's like, oh, I see this all the time. So it's like, to him, it was like, oh, it's like they're just doing that thing.
Well, to the household, right? Depending on what is, if it's similar culture, then it's, of course, you're gonna see that, right?
So it's weird. We don't even think about how much our perspective is shaped by what we intake through experiences. It really like trips me out to think that there are certain people that like live and die through one perspective.
Yeah.
It's like,
I think that was more, it was even more prevalent before, right? Before the internet, I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So
at least you could see the internet, you know, but still, like you were saying, this is like many podcasts ago, but, one of my cousins, shout out Arvel, if you're listening to this right now, he was like, oh, should I travel? Like he asked me, and I was like, well, yes and no, and then, because you can see it online, but then you brought up a really good point where it's like your other senses aren't being engaged, and you're also looking only through the filter of what they're showing you. So like it encodes different, like you don't feel the heat, you don't feel the stares of other people, or like the sense of urgency when you're like, oh, this is a sketchy part,
the smell in the air, like
smell alone,
there's so many things that involves experience than just seeing. Like
food. That's one of the biggest bummers about like COVID right now, just like the lack of perspective, because you're just stuck in one thing. And
it's not easy to even travel, right? It's it's like even to go to the UK, right? Like you're paying for your normal ticket, but on top of that, you had to pay extra for a COVID test before you go. And then the COVID test you're paying there in that country, and then how many times you have to do that, depending on whatever your restrictions are based on the country coming from. So it's like almost like the price of the ticket and then the price of all the tests you have to do. It's like you're paying for another ticket.
Totally.
So it's like really like making you not want to travel.
You have to like save up a lot of money to travel. And then even doing the test, like I'm really not interested in like getting something shoved up my nose, and but all right. So going back to the Afghanistan thing, it's really interesting that you were saying that China and Russia are in talks with them right now.
They said they were going to be in talks. So I don't know what happened. I haven't read into that.
Okay.
As of when they announced that they were going to do that, so I haven't heard what their talks are about.
Like they're observing like the Taliban as if it's like an actual government force now.
So I think that mainly the talks was to see how they are, and are they
like
gauging if they're like someone you can actually deal with or do deals with.
So what's pretty intense to think about is like Afghanistan is rich in minerals that the world needs, like lithium. I was listening to a podcast about it, and they're saying like lithium, but so you're like, okay, what's lithium? But it's like batteries are made of lithium. So you need to mine those minerals. So whoever builds a partnership with Afghanistan, whether it be like Russia or China, you're going to get, well,
that's the thing, right? Yeah. So it's like it's can they work with them? That's what they're trying to find out, because like the military were there from before, but they couldn't work with these people.
But imagine they could work with them.
Yeah, wow. We just don't know, right? That's the thing. Totally. You don't know, like.
Yeah, I really think that all things considered, we're really watching a power shift. I know we were talking about this before. I don't think we talked about it on the podcast, but you and I were talking about this throughout the week. But like, I don't think it's going to be a day-to-day shift. Like, we won't really see anything happen to our like lives in the West, but we'll just acknowledge that certain countries have more power than others. It's sort of like if America's like, oh, I'm going to invade this country. Remember when the whole Afghanistan thing happened? They said like, don't go because there's no like weapons of mass destruction thing, and they're like, well, we're gonna go anyways. The UN, remember? So like that could be like that's kind of how I see the superpower thing happening. It's more like Russia will be like, oh, I'm gonna go here, and then we'll be like, well, you can if you want,
Yeah.
But yeah, although it does sound daunting. That's like, oh, there's gonna be a power shift, but like there was a power shift towards America, and Britain's still totally fine. Like nothing happened in day to day for Britain,
right? But I think the only difference is the types of government these are, right? Like
okay,
democracy to democracy versus democracy to communist party.
So you think that's gonna be an issue?
Yeah, I mean they're talking about it. That's why they were supposed to talk about it a while back, but the COVID like stopped those kinds of talks, I guess, at the moment. About like talking about China.
Oh yeah, okay.
At the G7 and stuff like that. Like, how do we deal with them? So like it's slowly bringing back up again. So I don't know, like how like they're already like a very big country, right? They comparatively they are second to America if you talk about like military power.
Yeah.
Right. So they do have some strength.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why it's like
I forgot the name that they gave to China. It's like sleeping tiger or sleeping dragon. One of those terms. Because basically it's like it's this powerhouse that's just like waiting.
Yeah.
Because like one thing, like to reiterate the whole power shift thing, the only thing they're lacking is military might. They have military might, obviously, but like compared to America, like it's no, they don't have enough. But or maybe they will in the future, who knows? But in terms of economics, like everything's made in China, which is so intense to think about.
Yeah.
I was trying to buy like shirts, right? And then I was like, like every shirt was like made in China. I was like, oh man.
Yeah.
So it's not really about the big, because you were saying before, like, oh, but other companies are shifting towards other places for manufacturing, like Tesla, right?
Well, it would happen at the beginning with COVID, because when China did close down, it affected a lot of their manufacturing, right?
They all realized like, oh, we can't
just rely on one country.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But so now those are shifting, but it's like what I'm really looking at now is like if the commodities if the commodities start shifting away from China, then it's like, okay, maybe they don't have enough power, but like Tesla shifting, it's like, okay, that's like one
the Tesla has their own manufacturing plant over there.
No, right. But I'm saying like these companies that are shifting, because you hear it like, like, oh, we're moving plants or whatever.
Yeah.
Right, because like to diversify just in case this happens again, like logistically. But like those are like large products, but like the commodities on the whole, like plastic or like
small things,
yeah. And that's, it's crazy to think about, that people who are like real trillionaires or like billionaires, like you hear about like, okay, Drake, I'll make a lot of money. It's like, okay, that's more like a large purchase. Like I lump him in large purchase because like you have to kind of download his music, and like not everyone in the world can download music.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But like the real big players that are like trillionaires, billionaires, multi-billionaires, approaching trillionaires are like commodities, like widgets, you know, like small things that you need
everyday use
yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
It's crazy to think about it, you know, because like it's like nobody we think of like, oh, he owns so much land or whatever, but it's like, no, I'm looking at the person that's selling, you know, the one plastic gap separator between like your iPhone or you know what I mean, something like a very tiny part that every iPhone needs. Yeah. It's crazy mind shift. Yeah. But if those people start shifting out of China, then I'll be like, okay, they don't have power.
Yeah, it right, like it's still going to take a long time. Like COVID is still here. Like if that is going to happen, right?
The power shift.
No. I mean, like leaving China, those commodities. I just don't think that'll happen anytime.
But that's why I'm saying I think that we're witnessing a power shift towards China. Because it's like they have those commodities. Now you're seeing the larger things, like if they can make a partnership with Afghanistan and get all those elements, and then we're buying from China. Now we're more dependent on them than they are on us. You know. Yeah, economics is such a weird game of like domino effects. You know, it's like a spider web. You know, if you pull one web thing, like it affects the whole entire web. Yeah, I don't know. My money's on a power shift. What do you think? Yeah, no.
Yeah, I think it's been like talked about for a long time, and it was even representative in shows that I used to watch too. It's like,
oh really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Like, I think I mentioned this already. It's like Firefly, right? Like in within the show, it's like they were also saying Chinese words. They were using Chinese words.
Yeah.
So it's like,
oh, it's already
implementing. China's already like huge.
That's true.
At this point.
You know, they were actually saying that in university too. They're like, you should take Mandarin classes.
And I remember that a long time ago. Yeah, I remember that a long time ago. Yeah.
But to be like a real big player, you know, I guess you would need to learn Mandarin.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, English is still the international language, right?
Yeah.
Most of the world still speaks English.
Actually, it's funny, like, looking back, it's really the stuff you don't even think about that you use, like, going back to that whole thing about, like, small commodities. Because I was remembering this person that I used to train at martial arts a long time ago, my first studio that I was at, and she would tell me that she was like, oh, I'm flying to Peru. And I was like, oh, what are you doing there? And she's like, oh, my job is like to make trade deals for oil, you know, like they need a specific amount of oil in Peru, and then like I'm the intermediary. And I was like, at the time I didn't really understand it to the level of like, oh, you're a big deal. You know, the fact that you're like making these, because it's like, you're like, oh yeah, that's cool, like yeah, they do need oil. You know, but it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, no, but like everyone needs oil.
Yeah.
It's not like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I sell plastic bags, and you're like, oh, that's cool. But it's like, no, every place has plastic bags. You know?
Yeah.
We sleeping dragon thing.
Yeah. It's a funny phrase. Yeah.
We're all wowed by like, oh, I'm buying up all this land. You know, something big.
Yeah.
You know, I own this airport. I own this like fleet of buses or whatever. You're like, oh, that's cool. But like when you hear something like, oh yeah, I have to fly to like this place and negotiate a deal on plastics. You're like, cool, I guess. But it's like, no, that's a real big trade deal.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I like government-wise, in federal positions, it's all about, it's about the trade talks, right?
Yeah.
This is how generally works.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
It's foreign policy.
Yeah.
That's their main job.
We sleep on this, especially if you're like only, I remember 2 examples, actually, aside from that lady, because that was in Canada. So when we were in Palawan, Philippines, it also depends on where you go. So like we were travelers, right? So we were at this like really nice hotel, and then we were eating there in the restaurant, and then I think like 2 tables down, they don't have good Wi-Fi in the Philippines. Like it's terrible. And then they were negotiating a Wi-Fi deal. But at the time I was like, oh, that's really cool. But if you really think about it, it's like they're negotiating a Wi-Fi deal for the whole area, and it's like, no, everyone needs that. Everyone needs Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But it's like, it's like, it's almost like if you know, you know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
no, I think, like, for instance, like, I remember Facebook. Everybody has Facebook on their phones in the Philippines.
It's only free
because they work with the networks to build their network.
Yeah.
So phones get Facebook on them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it's like
so a lot of people think like Facebook is the internet. Yeah, it's trippy, man. And there's another one in Egypt too. This one guy, I can't remember but I remember like we were at the hotel like next to the pyramid, and they were talking about another trade deal that they were trying to get, like something to bring into Egypt. Yeah. And I was like, these are the real players, you know? But they're not famous. They're not celebrities. No. But we look, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Sleeping dragons, man.
We look at the wrong things.
Look at the wrong things, yeah.
Aspire, it's like podcast, the aspiring stuff is at the wrong things. It's like, oh, I want to be a movie star, all this stuff. But it's like very small amount of people become that. Yeah, like it's all about the people who are making the deals for that movie to even happen.
Yes, totally, exactly, yeah. So. Yeah, exactly. We're looking at like Matt Damon in Stillwater. Yeah, but it's like, but what about the poster printer who's going to give them the deal on the prints for the theaters? You know? Yeah. Although I am reminded of one of my first martial arts teachers' sayings, because he used to work for Procter & Gamble, and he's like, do you want to spend the rest of your life selling toilet paper? And I was like, it's a fair point. But I mean, those people are making lots of money, so it's like...
It depends on what you want in your life. That's the main line here, right?
But I also feel like it's in those circles, it's like you have to know someone, because I don't think it takes a lot of smarts to run those kinds of businesses, because you're just making deals. Yeah. But you just need to be in that circle. You know what I'm saying? It's like your dad has to have like owned the toilet paper plant, and then you take it over. You know, you don't really need, it's already running itself basically, you know, and then, actually another guy, I used to do yoga with, he was like a multimillionaire, and all he did was sell sensors for automatic doors. But you know, it's like everyone uses that, like all automatic doors. We all use it, but it's like we really do got to look at like the small things. Yeah.
But those are the small things that make life easier, right? Like we don't think about like, oh yeah, like the door opens itself, but it's like, there's something in it that made that. So it's like,
dude, you know, actually, wait, this is even trippier to think about too. So you know, every door now has the hand wave thing. You see it at Yorkdale? Yeah. So like, the company that got the deal for the door waving, they just made a ton of money. Yeah. Because every mall now is going to want that.
Yeah, they have it at the pool place.
Oh, really? Eh?
Yeah.
But it seems like it's the same manufacturer. You know, but it's funny because like when you see those things, you think that it's just like, oh, it's probably like government mandated, or like they did it only like the mall itself is just implementing that. You know what I'm saying? Like you never think who owns that piece of technology.
Yeah.
And then actually another crazy thing is like patents. You know, like like international patents. So like if you develop a thing, so like Tesla, okay, they have to file a patent in every single country so that you can't copy them. Yeah. Because like patent law is country specific. Like there's no like world patent place, right? So one of the things that they said while I was in business school, taking this law class, and he's like, the best thing you do is travel, steal an idea, and then come back and bring it to the country. You know, because like they can't sue you. Another reason why you just gotta keep traveling, man. Like your brain is just gonna be like, oh, this is a great solution, but then you have to move on it. That's the other part. Like it's like we all have good ideas, but who can like actually execute the idea?
That's why the way the world is, right? There are people that do that and people that don't do that.
Yeah, totally.
It's really what you want in life.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. Actually, what's also intense to think about is like those people who are doing really well. So when I went to Hong Kong first time in 2011, you know, now the TTC, how not the subway.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it has the glowing map with like it shows your stop, and then there's like, so they had that back in 2011, like fully functioning. But we didn't have that here. It was so archaic. And then it came here. I was like, oh, like my first thought was they should bring, because I took that class, and I was like, oh, they should bring that idea here, right? And like they did eventually do it, but I think it was the same company from Hong Kong that did it, because I think they just branch out to different parts of the globe. Like, oh, we're doing that in our country, we can do it here for you. Like the malls, Scarborough Town and Pickering Town Center, they got like a whole makeover. And apparently that's like a foreign company that bought them and is like redoing them to be similar to malls that are like in, I think he's from Hong Kong as well. There's like a big connection between I don't know about now because like the whole China thing, but like there's a huge connection between like Hong Kong and Canada.
Yeah, there was like a lot of that. Oh yeah. Wasn't there like a Huawei deal to do the 5G? But then
it was the China thing that like kind of messed everything up.
Yeah. But that was there. Like they were going to do this.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So it's so funny. Like you really like for that 2011 thing in Hong Kong, it was for a school. It was like Global Edge Ontario program thing, and like one of the perks of it is like you get to meet the people of Chamber of Commerce. So like like when we went to Hong Kong, we visited the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, and they were saying like, oh yeah, there's a lot of like deals that you're going to see, like a lot of changes technology wise in Canada that are going to come because we just made a bunch of deals with Hong Kong. At the time, you're like a student, you're like, oh, that's cool. But like looking back now, like it's almost like you need to see it executed before you see how it's a reality. You know, like what you said, I was like, oh, that's cool. But like,
That's why again it comes back to like the types of leaders you're picking, right? Like because all of those deals happen is through federal governments.
True. Oh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah. Dude, that's so trippy. It's going to be an economics podcast, like economics 101, like global economics.
Because that's really what it's about. It comes down to like who you're picking as your federal leader, right?
That's true, dude. I didn't even think that's so true. Actually, okay, wait. That's so funny you say that. So like I'm all for Andrew Yang, right? And I was like, yeah, UBI, blah, blah, blah. And then when he was running, they asked him that foreign policy deal. He got in like hot water a few times because of his like lack of understanding for global policy. It's like, yeah, president's primary job is to act on behalf of the country towards other leaders of countries. It's all about trade. It's like, but now after I saw those two like bad moments, like I totally agree with UBI. You should totally do it. But it's like, yeah, when he messed up those two, the Israel comment, remember he messed up there, and then I forgot what the other one was that people got mad at him for, but it's like, do you want that leader? Because you're right. It is like all these trade deals really do come down to your leader negotiating on your behalf. But we don't think about that.
We don't think about that.
Yeah. Dude, that's so trippy, man.
And those things matter a lot for a lot of the trade stuff. Like why, I think we were trying to get into the European Union deal. I think we did do that, right? Like there's things that you have to, if we don't think about it, but these are happening, right? And it's based on those particular leaders you're picking and what kind of stuff happens from that.
Right.
So it's like that's why, like from a certain perspective, it's like with Trump when he was in office, it's like he's a joke and no one's going to take this guy seriously.
Right.
So like what kind of what kind of international deals can this guy even do?
True.
Right. Like Biden is a whole different ball game now, right? So it's like.
Wow, that's such a mind blow. Like actually really thinking about that, it's like it really depends on your leader. Yeah,
and like going back to Afghanistan, the whole leaving thing, like who set it all up was Trump.
To leave,
right? The date was like starting May something, right? And then I remember, I think even Trump bragging about it because he's still doing the talk, like the what do you call it, like talking in front of the crowds, right? He's still doing that, and he's like,
"Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny."
Yeah. And I think he said like a few weeks ago or recent, it's like they cannot stop my deal. Like they have to.
What do you mean?
Like the way I set it up, something like I'm very much paraphrasing, but it was more like I've set it up in a way that they can't back out of this deal. That they have to leave, right? But that looks bad on Trump now with what's happened in Afghanistan.
Right.
but they're trying to erase from him saying that.
Oh, it's funny.
But like when he did that deal with the Taliban, that he did leave in Afghanistan a very like small amount of troops.
Right.
So it was already like set up to leave, right? So it was like.
But you're all saying like Biden can't renege on the deal.
Well, Biden ended up. It's up to Biden to continue with it, but also it's like you've left there with like almost like not many troops left anyways, and it's like you got to go.
To think about it. It's like, why would it look bad on Biden to renege on the deal? Because his people will be like, well, there's a war. Why are we leaving? Dude, to be a president, you have to deal with like external factors and internal.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, he did take the blame, which is kind of it was a bad situation. Like
Biden?
Yeah, but he did say
it wasn't his decision though.
No. But it's still his decision to go through with it.
Okay.
Like it wouldn't look good politically, also to add more troops.
Right. Yeah. No.
Because it already nobody wants to be there, right?
Right.
But then it's like leaving, and then you see what's happened. Right. Both are bad situations.
But how do you manage that, dude? That's
the thing. This is public opinion. This comes down to this is what it is. Yeah.
But it's like it's funny because it's like, imagine being in that position and in the public opinion people are pissed at you, and you're like, man, these jokers don't even understand what's really going on. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to get this like deal done with this country to not do this thing. Like, so like certain things they can't even tell us about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, what about those? Like when Biden met, what's his name? Putin.
Oh yeah.
When they met him and behind closed doors, they shut it.
Yeah.
Do you think they just chatted about the weather for like 4 hours? Like, no, they made a deal or something. You know. So it's like.
Or can they do a deal? Like what? I don't know what exactly the talks were, but it's most likely, of course, about trade. Like these are the things that they're talking.
So it's like us as like the civilian jokers, not us, but like civilian jokers who are like, oh, why can't you get this done? It's like, man, you don't even understand the totality of what's really going on. Yeah. I have a lot of respect. Like now that we talk about it, it's like I have a lot of respect for world leaders. It's like that's not a easy position.
No,
you're gonna be hated. You're gonna be loved.
Yeah.
And what's crazy too is like, because they maximum get 8 years, right? That's not that much time to get like stuff really rolling. Because then another president comes in, undoes everything you do. So you're just always in this back and forth struggle, you know?
Yeah, that's the thing with democracies, at least. That's why I think Afghanistan was more like a
totalitarian.
No, like
communist.
No. Like we were not fully there, or like we didn't have an end goal. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because it was it was like Bush did his thing, then Obama. It was like doesn't look good to be in Afghanistan, but like not right away, not easy to pull out of the place. But it's like, so you're kind of like you're half-assing it.
Yeah,
you're not really in it, but you're also not out of it. So it's like you've left it with the bad situation.
Who knows? Maybe they were just like this half-assing that you're talking about. Maybe it's just they're just buying time because they know that there's
no. That's the thing. I think that's what it is. It's like I don't want to deal with this. Let the next president deal with this.
But not even just that. But like, what if there's a trade? Like they're saying Afghanistan has like trillions of dollars worth of raw minerals, right? So what if he knew that and he's like, okay, if I can
I'm pretty sure they know all that. Like
keep going.
I think what he said was more like, if there is an economic reason for them to be there, they would be there.
But there is.
But there isn't. There wasn't at the time. Like it just, I don't think it's like easy to get to these things.
I think there's an economic reason. They just can't admit the economic reason.
No. I know. But I'm saying like, no. Like when with the Vice thing, right? Movie, it was. And we knew like the Iraq is about oil, right?
Exactly.
So there was an economic reason to be there,
right?
Right. But they never had anything like that specifically with Afghanistan, right? If they wanted to, sure, they may have, but it's like I just don't know if they could have made those types of deals, or they just I think it was like more of that half-ass thing. If you're really gonna do it, you got to be really in it. You got to go like.
You mean to change their I don't even think they really cared about that.
No, but I'm saying that's why it was like, because of the democracy. When you go with different positions, it really matters. Public opinion
actually
has an effect.
You know, it's trippy to think about. Why do you want them to be a democracy? So that you can deal with them more civilly.
Yeah. Of course.
But nobody thinks about that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we just want to give you voting rights. It's like, no, we just want to do better trades with you. You know, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Or at least we do trades with you? Like, we couldn't do it with the Taliban necessarily. So that's why they tried to build that government. Like Saudi Arabia, they have deals with Saudi Arabia, but Saudi Arabia is not a democracy, right?
Maybe it's like an iceberg, right? So like you look at, like icebergs underneath, it's like a bigger base than the top, right? So like you look at it and you're like, the message they're telling us is like, we want to build a democracy because we want you guys to have freedom and the rights and privileges that the West has, blah, blah, blah. That's like the top of the iceberg. But like the real base of the iceberg is like the economic trade deals that you can fulfill if you guys were more civil.
Yeah.
Why don't they tell people that? Dude, what, like, I really think about that. It's like, why don't they just make that their platform? What if the next president was just straight up about everything? Actually, no, that might not be good because then your enemy countries might not, they'd be like, oh, but I'm sure the enemy countries know that's what's really happening. I just wonder what would happen if you were just completely transparent as a government. But they, remember the movies, like, governments run off secrets? So it's like, maybe you really do need secrets.
I think you do. I think at some level you do, because it's not like everybody's there kumbaya. There's countries that don't want, like, you know what I mean? It's a competition thing, so it's like,
no, but I mean for your people.
I know, no, for your people, but you can't say everything out. You can't say everything, maybe not at this time, right? You're making specific trade. For instance, you're making specific trade deals, but you can't tell what your trade deals are.
You know what it is?
Right away.
It's insider trading. It's like, the whole idea of insider trading. So like on the stock market, we can all bid on the stock market, right? But like, okay, so either this stock is going to go up or down. You're going to make money or lose money. Okay. So we as civilians can bet on it, but it becomes illegal if you have insider trading, meaning you have information that the general public doesn't have.
Yeah.
So maybe that's analogously, that's why they need to keep the secrets, because it's like, if we just tell you everything, this trade won't go through, or it'll affect it in a different way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, some people make more money than other people if we just give you the information. Like,
there's a lot of things. Yeah, sure.
I could see that is why they would need to keep things hush hush. Yeah, because like, all right, if you're like, oh, I'm gonna go with this country, but you told another country you're going to go with them, but you're planning to like cancel that deal later on. You know what I mean? It's like poker. It's like poker. It's like I got to hide my hand until.
Well, yeah, it reminds me like this was Yasser.
Think about this, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No.
Nobody thinks about it like this.
It's not exactly. It's not as simple as. It's not that simple.
It's not just like we should just pull out of the war. It's like, do you know what would happen if we do that? Like maybe like him pulling out now is like, okay, we've finalized all of our contracts. We can leave. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And there are also other things
too, like even with Trump, right? Like they were doing talks with the Taliban. Like that's how they did this whole.
Okay.
Like they were like government wise, they were doing talks with the Taliban how to pull out, right? And I guess it was more like how much can they trust them, and like what happens after? Totally. Like there's so many. That's why they have these secrets or like spies. This is all part of the whole thing, right? Yeah. There's a reason why it's all there. It's like you can make certain deals, but also it's like how much can you trust them to follow through with certain deals?
You know why I'm like thinking on this like wavelength right now is because I've been watching Guy Ritchie's The Gentleman.
Yeah.
Like over and over, but like that is economics 101. Like we look at it as like mobsters. Like basically the whole premise is like the first time I watched it, I didn't really get what was going on, but now that I watch it like several times, I get like, so he was making a deal with this person. So like this character 1 was going to buy character 2's drug supply.
Yeah.
And he offered him $400 million. So then character 1, who was going to buy it, he told this other guy to raid it and then like mess it up. So then when he raided it, at the end of the movie, he's like, it's not worth 400 million anymore because now XYZ happened. It's only worth 100 million, Yeah. And like, we don't realize that countries work just like that.
Yeah.
It's like, we'll make this deal and then, okay, just bomb them a little bit. Or like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
They're really playing like chess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I really feel like if you watch mob movies, like Layer Cake or like gangster movies, it's really like showing you how like big governments work. I know I said this before. It's like countries are like gangs, you know, but yeah. But we like, so many people are on such a superficial level with their government that they're like, you know, let's argue about the naming of Dundas Street. I was like, come on, bro. Like, that is
that's not. But yeah, but again, it's like this is not. Yes, it is. This is more of a local government to deal with. That's why it doesn't go to federal government.
Right. I know. I'm just saying.
So it's like we have internal governments to deal with internal things.
That's probably why they set them up. They're like, dude, we got some real problems. Like, deal with your people.
Yeah,
you know, like,
yeah.
Well, all right. So speaking of government stuff and how they're gonna play things out, the mandatory vaccinations of certain peoples in government. Like I was saying this
in public positions.
Public positions. So like I actually wrote it down. Military, teacher, healthcare workers, they have to get it by October, the end of October.
Yeah, they'll be fully vaccinated by it, yeah.
Yeah, or I don't know, like, all right, so I wrote that note down at the beginning of the week, but then I was at my parents' house, and then CNN, or CP24 was playing, and then I think they said, I don't know if it was still the same groups, but they said, like, the public positions will be terminated by October, the end of October, if you don't get the vaccination. It's okay. So we both agree that you should get the vaccine, totally.
Yeah.
But what I'm more shocked by, I'm not shocked that you have to get the vaccine. It's like, yeah, totally, you should get the vaccine. Like on a fundamental level, it's like, I think you should get the vaccine. But on a principle level, I'm kind of shocked by this, because it's like, now we're venturing into totalitarian governments. Where's the freedom?
No, that's not, I don't think that's...
You don't think so? Okay.
No, because it's like you're putting other people's lives at risk, which will cost more money.
Okay.
For people who don't get vaxxed. No. No. For people who are unvaxxed or vaxxed, because vaxxed people can still spread it. So you're causing more problems. You're affecting other people's freedoms.
Okay.
So I think that's why.
But just like hepatitis, HIV. If you have HIV... like, should you disclose that you have HIV because you could put people at risk? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, we're drawing thin lines here.
No, I mean, the HIV thing is, I think that's if you're intimate with someone, right? Like, that's generally how it would spread.
Like blood to blood contact.
Yeah. So
okay, not just intimate. Like, if you have an open wound and I touch it, and
I wasn't there like someone like going around spreading it, and like that's it, you can't do that.
You can't do that? Or
yeah.
Oh, really? He tried to?
Yeah, he was like going around like seeing with so many people trying to spread it.
Oh, okay.
And it was a criminal thing.
Oh, you cannot do that.
You can't.
Yeah. Okay, no, but right, totally. But it's still secret. What I'm saying is, like, you have to disclose if you're vaccinated, and if you're not, you're gonna get terminated.
Sure. So that
difference.
Yeah.
It's not like you can't work here because you have HIV.
Right, but I think, like, for instance, for like going to school, your kids can't go to the school
unless you're vaccinated. Right, but then
it's more like it is still freedom, though, because if you don't want to get vaxxed, well, then you can't work at the public places.
No, right. Okay,
there's the freedom is still there, right?
No. It's okay. Maybe not freedom. Your liberties are taken away, because it's like you're not allowed to have this job unless you have this. It's very slippery, where it's like, oh, you have HIV, you can't work here. You know what I mean? It's like, where do you draw? When do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line?
Well, it's where I think public health comes in effect. I don't think it's HIV's public health necessarily.
All right, let's say I'm a jiu-jitsu instructor and I have like HIV. You get scratches all the time. You could bleed, right? What if they're like, we have to make sure you don't have HIV if you want to work here? It's the same scenario. Yeah. But just different things. So how come one's not okay and one is okay? They don't make you disclose if you have HIV if you're working in a jiu-jitsu
I think
place.
if it was a pandemic, it probably would.
So you're saying it hinges on the fact that it's a pandemic?
Yeah. Because it's affecting everything right now, right?
I suppose. I don't know. It seems very slippery to me. Because it's
I don't think it is, in my opinion.
Because what happens after the fact? I agreed with Joe Rogan's point where it's like, sure, everyone's like, yeah, Obama would never do this, but it's like, all right, but what about if a different president gets into office to start misusing the information?
Mm-hmm.
You know, now it's like they were talking about like social scoring. You know, it's like, oh, you posted this, so we won't hire you for this. We give you a low social score because you're on XYZ of these things.
Yeah. That
is actually happening though. Like, there are programs out there that allow you to, like, in really big companies, they do that. They do. Like, there are certain job positions that I've heard people applying for where they have to give their social media passwords over so that people can look at through their social media.
Yeah.
And like, but what if they did that for everything? Which is what they're doing with COVID. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, do you agree with that still? Or
I still agree with that because your freedoms are not taken away in the sense that...
So you agree with giving over your passwords so that people can look over your thing?
Oh, no.
No, but it's the same idea. It's the same principle where you have to do something. You're thinking you're like isolating it to COVID.
Yeah, of course.
Right. But
because that's all we're talking about.
No, but it's what I'm saying is, where do you draw the line?
It's but it's not, the line's not here yet, right?
Okay, but it's like, if you open the door, it's like, well, we should do this as well.
Yeah, but if there's always going to be an if for everything, right?
Yeah, but you're opening the door.
No, but yeah, it's an if though. We're dealing with what we have right now.
Okay, right, but I feel like that's short-sighted though, because if you're just looking at what you're dealing with right now, it's like, then how do you plan for the future? Everyone plans for the future. It's like, what are we going to do next?
Yeah, the future was to keep everyone safe.
Okay, but what I'm saying is like if you can't stretch it past COVID, okay, totally. But it's like, did they say that? Like, is it going
some laws could be like time stamped.
That's what I mean. So it's like, okay, so is like what?
Or regulations. I wouldn't say laws.
Right. It's like this is only for the pandemic.
Yeah.
We're going to do this. Sure. But like, we need that in writing is what I mean. It's like, some safeguards here. Because the fact, like, again, I agree with getting vaccinated. I totally think everyone should get vaccinated. But at the same time, it's like, that seems very infringing on your, like, civil liberties now.
Right,
like, it's, like, well, what if they're like, oh, we can... You know what I mean? It's like, oh, you voted for this person, you won't get hired here. It's like that there's like an HR rule for that.
Yeah.
But there's no HR rule for COVID.
Well, I think we're talking about specific public positions, right?
For the vaccination.
Yeah.
Totally. But it's like, okay, so Ford said no COVID passport. Right? And then Trudeau's now talking about COVID passports. It looks like we're going to all get COVID passports. So it's like, yeah, but you said this, but you didn't, you know what I mean? So it's like, that's what I mean, slippery slope. It's like, when do you draw the line? Because you can say one thing and do another, which is what we saw with the COVID passport. Ford said no. Government said yes. We got to do it.
Yeah.
So this is my worry. It's like, where do you draw the line? You're opening a can of worms with the whole, we're going to fire you, There's a difference between like, okay, you just get tested all the time. Fine, you didn't lose your job, but you're losing your job. I was like, whoa, that's
what I thought. It was weird. I have to look into myself if you're going to get fired or is it like putting in a position where you can't be dealing with the public?
No. Oh, you mean
like directly with people.
So what you're saying is they're going to fire you from your position, shift you to a different position?
Yeah.
Maybe, but what it said on CP24 is terminated. I was like, wow.
Yeah, that's the thing I want to double check that because that seems pretty crazy.
That's what I mean.
No, it is crazy.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
It's crazy, yeah. But it's like if you're putting them in a position where they don't deal with the public.
Sure.
And they have to do the daily tested.
But they didn't say that. They didn't say shifting. They said your position will be terminated. On the news, they said, and I was like, what the hell's going on? Yeah. Like, this is a severe, like, you know, it totally, I agree with you. If it's like, yeah, okay, we'll just move you to this area, but you won't lose your livelihood.
Yeah. There's still going to be, I think like even with that, it's still going to be difficult because there's probably a lot of labor law issues here.
That's what my sister
that
said.
It's like,
yeah. when we heard that, I was like, dude, what the hell?
It's like, even if you fire them, they probably have to pay them off so much.
Yeah. I agree. My sister said that because she works in the hospital, and she's like, because it's also
they can't just fire you.
Yeah, they can't just
unless you did something like bad at the job, right?
But see, no. Okay, so this is why it's a slippery slope. Precedents. So,
that's why the other laws exist. I think with labor laws, they just can't fire you.
But that's again why I keep going back to the slippery slope thing. It's like, now if we're fighting in court, it's like, now you cite the 2021 court case where they lost and they had to disclose their information and then got fired. So like, going forward, it's like, oh, we need to see if everyone's got HIV. You like sue them, and they're like, well, I'm citing the 2021 COVID court case. And then they're like, oh, okay, you win, because all laws are based on precedent. So like, if it passes one time, then you know, it's like, dude, slippery slope. You're looking it up about the terminations?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be that quick to find, but yeah.
Just Google like termination.
Yeah, I'm doing that.
And another crazy one that I saw, I don't know if this is Canada though, but it affects sports players' pay if you don't get the COVID shot. They get docked pay. So nothing again. So it's like slippery.
It's just more and more incentive to just get the vaccine.
Right. It's more incentive to get the vaccine. I agree with the vaccine. The implementation is opening up the door for potential conflicts later on that look scarily like totalitarian governments. You know, where it's like, the government says this, we all have to do it. You know, there's no. Even if I think it's a good thing, I keep repeating this because it's important. It's like, I do agree with the vaccine. I just don't agree with the rollout, because that's scary.
Yeah.
You know, my perspective is just let them. It's so negative, but like, let them, you know, find their own destiny.
Yeah, but again, it's like, when you do that, it's like,
way of saying it, you know.
Yeah, I know, but it's like, when you do that, it's like, a lot of the unvaxxed people still gonna like pack up. Like, it's happening in some places in the U.S. already.
But remember, the guy who was like on that video where he's like, just don't go to the hospital. So.
Yeah, but that's not going to happen, right?
No, I know. I'm just saying.
What's going to happen is, say, same situation that we had earlier, which is like, it's going to be filled. The hospitals will be filled up with the unvaxxed, which is going to affect people who need normal. Health stuff done.
So I didn't watch the full video, and then I brought that up to. I was going to the movies with my sister and your brother, and then they were like, "Yeah, it was about the guy. His wife had cancer, and they had to send her home because they had to deal with COVID patients." So like, so he was pissed. He's like,
"Of course,
taking spots, you know." And it's like, that's why maybe it's like, if you opted not to get it, it's almost like, maybe it's like this.
Yeah, but they can't do that, right?
You know what they should do? They should do, like, instead of getting fired, it's like, after this date, if you haven't gotten it, you are not allowed to be admitted to the ER. What if you did it like that? People would freak out. They'd be like, I'm getting the vaccine. You know? Because they're just in case. It's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, like, that seems more dire, but less of a slippery slope than firing people just because they don't got the vaccine. Just being like, you can't come to the ER with COVID if you haven't taken the vaccine by this point. Right? Yeah. That seems more logical to me. It's more callous, I'll admit that. But, you know, I think the other way, like, given the two options, the totalitarian way or the you have to fend for yourself way, at least that's giving people the options. Like, you know, you're going to fend for yourself, you know, because then it's up to them.
Yeah.
It's not like they're going to be like, we're going to fire you. I'm like, what? Yeah.
We'll see. I have to look more into it.
Oh, I thought you found.
No, it's not that easy to just find right away. You got to read specific, actual stuff that the government actually say versus what did the reporters say.
Right.
And how they're, you know, treating these headlines.
Yeah, true. Maybe it was just like they were just saying it, but it's like that was just to get people to watch the news more.
Yeah,
you know?
Of course. But yeah, this way you got to double check. Well, at least I need to.
All right, so shifting back to tech, UFOs, and VFX, we watched that video. And so basically, Corridor Crew. So check them out on YouTube. They're pretty awesome. Basically, they break down how you can mimic the UFO footage. Right.
Certain UFO footage.
So like, as I was watching, it's like, okay, are they just going to discount aliens? Like maybe, but then the only one they couldn't do, and they admitted this, was Commander Fravor's video, plus his like physical side. Like he saw it with his own eyes. And multiple people actually, and he's just the only famous one who talks about it. But I don't know, like when you told me to watch it at first, when I started watching, I was like, oh, they're going to discount aliens. There's not going to be real. But then when the final video of Commander Fravor's one, they're like, oh, we can't explain this one. I was like, all right, cool. There's still a doorway for aliens to be here.
But they're also saying like aliens is still like you can.
It might not be aliens. It could just be like tech or
something that we don't exactly understand or something like that. Right? Yeah. I get it. I get it from their perspective what they're trying to do, what they're saying.
I love how nobody's talking about it. You know,
because there's other things to worry about.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's way.
I mean, I think it was like a news cycle for like a week.
Then they just
right.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was like all around CNN and everything, and then
more fringe people are talking about like Joe Rogan.
Yeah, of course.
Lex Friedman, Corridor Crew.
But like that's not general public. They're watching CNN, right? So it's like it's not really talking about it.
Although there was a piece on CNN about it. I couldn't find the download for it, but like they did a whole spotlight on.
Yeah. You mean the 60 Minutes?
Yeah, 60 Minutes. Yeah. But I couldn't find it online, so it sucks. But yeah, they got it's like 5 minutes of fame or whatever, 10 minutes of fame.
Yeah.
But now, I don't know. I think we should all. I mean, there's a lot to.
Well, the question is, we don't know what it is. I guess that's kind of like it was a interesting story just because you're saying aliens, but it's like we don't know what it is. Totally, it really comes down to like, okay, well, we don't have an answer.
Right. Wait, all right. So I said this to you throughout the week, but like, doesn't it feel like a lot? Like, so much is going on at these times are extremely turbulent. You know, it's not like...
Yeah, I think it feels like, I was thinking about that too, it's like maybe like summertime seems like a lot happens in the summertime.
No.
Like as a news cycle.
No. So I was going to contrast it to 9/11 because that was the biggest time, remember?
Sure, yeah.
But it was just 9/11 and the war. But this is like...
Well, that's the only biggest thing that we remember, right?
Right, totally. But it's like global pandemic, aliens, you know, I guess that's really it. Global pandemic and aliens, but
now with the Afghan situation,
yeah, that was the other thing. I was like, what was the other?
Well, it's like recycling back to 9/11. It's like
yeah. But see,
20 years down the line,
a global economic shift. That's another thing. It's like it seems like a lot is happening right now. Although they did say, you know, this is the age of enlightenment. 2021, we enter into the age of Aquarius. So we're becoming enlightened to the world. Maybe. I don't know. I don't believe in that, but yeah. You know, it's like, it just seems like a lot's going on. It's weird.
Yeah, I think it's just a new... It may seem like that. I wonder what it's going to be like. What do we actually remember of this time?
True.
Right.
Wait, is it better to... All right. Plato's allegory of the cave. Is it better to be in the cave watching the light shadows on the wall, or is it better to have left the cave and then try and tell people, dude, there's a world outside? That's how it feels right now, because I feel like nobody cares about aliens. Nobody cares about this global power shift. The Afghanistan thing is like a blip as well to everyone. They're like, it's crazy that's happening.
Yeah.
Like, because it doesn't affect them on their day-to-day.
No.
You know? So it's like... Is it better to be in the cave with most people?
Well, yeah. I mean, doesn't that come down to like ignorance is bliss, right?
Yeah, like the Matrix.
Yeah.
He wanted to go back in.
The one. Yeah.
He's like, I don't like this real world.
Yeah.
Give me the steak and make me forget. You know. It's weird.
People want an easy life.
Yeah.
Or an easier life. Yeah.
And they don't want to think about the big thing, and then it's like you're just being, and then. And then when they wake up just a little bit and they're like, now they start, because you could be like a little conscious of things.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, you can be like, you start on the journey and you're like, wow, there's all these backroom deals going on. And then you get all fired up about that. But you're not to the point of like super conscious where it's like, oh no, these things are here for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're the reason why the West is the way it is.
Yeah.
You know, like people are getting upset over, you know, they're getting upset at the forest, the tree, but they're not seeing the forest.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, why does Coca-Cola own this? Oh, it's so bad. But it's like, well, if Coca-Cola didn't own it, then da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, like, they're using terms like evil and stuff like that. Where like, evil is just a concept, and and it's not a real thing.
It's not a real thing.
They're people.
It's
not a real thing. It's just people running companies, right? They're people at the end of it.
Even if when people are like, oh, mass murder, that's evil, bro. It's like, you know, you hear a thing called World War II? Like, sure, you think about Hitler, but we also killed a lot of Germans.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you're like an eye for an eye, you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to do that because, like, if you didn't fight back, like, he would have taken over.
Yeah.
Crazy, right? But like, that's the point of being super conscious. Like when people are like, I mean, Hitler. Like I heard this on podcast. Like, if you on Dan Carlin's podcast, he was saying like, if you want to be super honest, but you want to be hated by everyone in this time, mm-hmm. like this current time, you would write a paper about how beneficial it was for Hitler to open up trade for the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
But like people can't do that because they're like, oh, the Holocaust, all that stuff, right? But if you wrote a paper about how Genghis Khan did that, people don't care because they're like, oh, it was like not thousands, like hundreds of years ago, almost 1,000 years ago.
Yeah, not in our immediate history.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like time creates enough separation that you can look at things more objectively.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Weird times. Okay, final thing, because this is going to make our lives a little bit easier and a little bit better. Tesla bot.
Yeah.
Tesla bot. I'm excited. I mean, this is totally the beginning of iRobot.
It is, yeah.
They're going to do, what was that, menial? Oh, I wrote down. Boring, repetitive, and dangerous work. That's what they're going to do.
Yeah.
It looks like a humanoid. And it's going to use the same sensor as the Tesla's, what was it? Picture cam? What do you call that?
The Tesla cams. Like, it's using the cameras and
not LiDAR. It's using like actual picture.
Yeah. I believe yeah.
So it'll, if you go watch the movie iRobot, that's where we're headed, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to do all the meaning.
But they were specific to say it's friendly.
Yeah.
And it only runs 5 miles per hour, so if you ever have to run away from it, you can.
Yeah. I still have to cut that out. I had to go jiu-jitsu today, so like I didn't have time, but like I'm going to cut that piece out because it's so funny. He's such a troll. But like, I actually think it'd be great, you know? Even the things you don't want to do, you're like, oh, Tesla bot, clean my house. Tesla bot, make me coffee when I wake up.
Yeah.
Could you imagine that? Like
it comes back to this, right? Where we had maids or slaves.
Mm-hmm.
We're bringing it back to that, but they're robots.
But
so
we're
it's like
dehumanizing them because we're calling them robots.
Yeah.
Up until they become conscious.
Then they want their rights.
Yeah. Dude, that is crazy. And then you're gonna have robot rights.
Yeah.
Okay.
AI.
They're saying, Sam Harris was talking about this, and he was saying how it's evil. Well, I mean, we're just talking about how nothing's evil, but he was saying it's evil to create a being that is able to suffer. So like, it's fine to do menial tasks, but once you give it AI, once it's like self-aware, then it becomes evil.
Yeah. I mean, then it's
why am I just waiting to make this dude's coffee? Why
exactly. Yeah. Of course, I think that makes more sense. Like once you give it an AI, that means you don't want it to be just a robot anymore, right?
But now think about this: we were once animals without consciousness, and then we grew consciousness, and then now we're arguing over human rights and all that, right?
Yeah.
So it's like ignorance is bliss, like you were saying. There's like the Tesla bot doesn't know its only job is to make me coffee. It doesn't know that there's a whole world out there that it could be accomplishing.
Right. Yeah.
As long as we keep them dumb and docile, we can control them. Yeah. Very analogous to governments and the majority of how the world is run. Look into it.
It just reminds me of because I use a lot of the autopilot driving, or they have the FSD for the Teslas. Imagine if that has an AI, like where it can. I don't want to drive there.
I know, dude. Could you imagine it? Oh, dude, it's so crazy. Drive me to work. I don't want to drive you to work. Oh, bro. Should kill it. Should make it a full slave. It just gotta like lobotomize it. Don't let it have consciousness.
I guess that's the point, right? Like I don't think we're gonna give it AI anytime soon to that level.
Menial tasks. Just
dealing with just tasks. Like we have the normal robots that we do that already.
Yeah, totally. But just home robots now.
Yeah.
Well, we do kind of have those like the robot cleaners.
Yeah.
That like go around your house and they like vacuum stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be kind of cool to get.
Mm-hmm.
Just like leave it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like Athena would be so scared of it. She's like, what is this thing? I mean, technically, we do have that with like Siri too.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things around tech that we have that's building to it. We can see where it's going, right? This is all like different, what do you call like databases for like dealing with people and learning the AI, like right. So to the point where if they, you like that's what Tesla is doing too. It's like they've got the setup for. What's for all this?
It's like that. Going back to the beginning of the podcast when I was saying. When I was at the Chamber of Commerce and they were like, oh yeah, we have a lot of deals, and then it was like, oh, that's a cool story up until you start seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like in terms of these like robot AI things, we had them the whole time, but it's like it's a cool story up until we see it actually. It's almost like they were like slow programming us. Like think about Siri.
Yep.
It's like you ask her to set a timer, you ask her to change the song. How's that any different than a Tesla bot?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
You tell the vacuum cleaner to vacuum the house. How's that any different than the Tesla bot?
Mm-hmm.
You set a destination to drive you to work.
Yeah.
How's that any different?
At that level, yeah, it's just a robot, right?
It's only because those things can only do one thing.
Yeah.
But once you start combining them, we start freaking out.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like no, but you had those things. It's like. It's like watches used to just be watches, and now they're like monitors. They're like notification systems. Yep. We're just trying to make life easier, man. That's all it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're only freaked out by the sum of the parts, not the parts themselves.
I think it's also like the notion of the movies. We only think of the movies but there's always a movie's got to be something goes crazy.
Yeah.
But it's like not necessarily real life.
It shifts the cultural zeitgeist. Like we think robots are scary only because we've been brought up to believe that, because we watch these. What if we watch these movies and these robots were like super chill? We'd be like, oh, why don't we have that now?
Yeah.
Actually, well, technically we did. If you watch like Lost in Space, remember the robot with the kid, Lost in Space with the family, and they had like another more contemporary example, the Christopher Nolan one, Interstellar.
Okay. Yeah.
The big robot.
Yes. Yeah.
It wasn't scary. It was like he was just doing his job.
Yeah.
So it's like if all movies.
But he had
like
some level of AI too, where he can talk.
Yeah, exactly. If all movies were like that, we wouldn't care. But because iRobot came out, we're all freaking out. It's like, no, it's one movie, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
And Black Mirror too.
Well, Black Mirror did like it's only going to talk about the focus on the if it goes haywire.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like media really shapes the cultural narrative, like how we view things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, cool. How much do you know how much they're going to cost?
No.
Oh, too bad. Next year. They're coming out next year?
I don't think they're going to come out next year. I think we're going to see more prototypes probably next year. It's still a long while to go. But it was more like the way it was done is more like a pitch to come join us so we can get this done.
So work on it.
Yeah.
Give a guess on how much you think it'll cost.
I don't know. So you learn everything. I don't know, maybe like a car price. Still.
Really? Wow. So like 40 grand?
Yeah, it'd probably start like that.
Damn, I was gonna say 15. Like I was kind of hopeful, like 15 G's.
Maybe, yeah, maybe.
Like 40 G's is a lot.
Depends on how much R&D is involved in this. Oh, yeah, it's more about that, right? It's like how much money you're spending to get to this point.
And you know, like again, going back to the people that make millions of dollars, we're all like, wow, look at Elon Musk with his like Tesla bot, whatever. And like he's the richest man in the world. But what about the person that's supplying the plastic casing for the wires? Mm-hmm. He's the real money maker right there.
Yeah.
I just don't think about those things. All right. Anything else?
No, I think that, yeah. No.
All right, stay focused. Global economics are crazy. Take it easy, Vish.
Yeah. Peace.
Bye. All right, hope you enjoyed that episode. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, all those fun things, and check out our sponsors, Zenro Clothing Co., Portian Bakery, and Podbean. Take it easy, Vish.
Peace.